I like to cook. I like all things food. Got my first tomato. Got my first tomato off my plant for this thing. So if you guys have your handout, or if you don't, you've got a piece of paper. What I want to do is I'm going to give you 30 seconds. And that's why I'm going to pull up my phone here. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. And what I would like for you to do is draw a tree. Just draw a tree. As fancy, as basic as you want. So 30 seconds, don't put a whole lot of thought into it, but just draw us a tree. Okay, and stop. So what I'd like to do is, since we have faces, you guys mind showing it up, putting it up to the screen? Let me see what you guys have. A cute one with a little tree hole in there. We got a fir tree, we got fluffy trees, we got all that good stuff. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. So my question to you is, those of you that did the tree, and those of you that did not draw roots, why didn't you draw roots? No right or wrong answer. You guys can take your time.
I just thought roots were going to be hard to do.
It was hard to do? Okay. Okay.
I didn't even think about it.
Didn't think about it? Okay, that is fair. Anybody else?
Because you don't see them when you're looking at a tree standing on the surface or the ground.
You're absolutely right, Dylan. You're absolutely right. Thank you so much for that. You are spot on. So when we think about a tree, we don't see the roots. And so I live in Dallas. I live by SMU. And so I'm in one of the older homes. My house was built in 1956. And so I have 3 huge pecan trees that I love, and I refuse to cut them down because they give me shade in the summertime. But one of the reasons why I looked at this house and I kept the trees is because the pecan trees have really deep roots. So they're one of the last trees when we've had the tornadoes and all that good stuff that topple. So as Dylan said, when we think about diversity, when we think about inclusion, when we actually think about anything, we really want to think about the roots of things, because if we only look and we only tend to the top and we don't take care of those roots, which is a lot of times why some of the trees toppled over during the storm, we don't necessarily have a firm foundation to kind of go with the ebbs and flows and the storms and all that good stuff. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go through this workshop here today. So when we think about inclusion and we think about diversity, we want to think about a respectful workplace. And when we think about a respectful workplace, it really is about investing in others. And then unfortunately, in these unfortunate events that have happened over the past couple of weeks, we haven't invested in others, which is why we're kind of struggling to figure out where people are and why they tick and why they don't, and what they like and what they don't. Is we really need to invest in others in order to have a respectful workplace. And we're going to talk about that. And it is about equality. And let me just say something about equality. A lot of times we get, and I've been guilty of this myself, I get offended when I hear a word because it's been misused. And when we think about equality, equality doesn't mean the same as, it just means we give the same value. If you think about it, we can give the same value for an Audi versus a BMW, if that makes sense. So when we kind of do that whole conformity of, oh, it's equal, we have to be the same as, and there is a quote that I have been trying to hold on to in these past couple of weeks, is you don't have to be one of to stand with, okay? So we don't have to be the same, but we can at least give each other equal respect, all of those good things. So it's about equality. It's also about accepting differences. You know, we always hear the saying, oh God, if everybody were just like me. Oh my God, the world would be in such turmoil if we were all the same, okay? I do DISC, and I also do, I've done Myers-Briggs before, but it's called Kolbe assessment. It's not a quite wide known one. And part of it is what is your personality on starting things quick? And I'm not. So if everyone were just like me, we would have laws researched and researched and researched, and the comparison of the research and research. But if you needed something to happen yesterday, it would not be me. So this is why, again, we want to be able to accept differences in people. And then respect, again, respect. I don't have to agree with you, but I can at least respect where you're coming from as long as I get that same respect back. Now, if you notice in your handout and on this slide, that very top stone is left empty. And so I'm going to ask you, because again, this is going to be interactive, what else do you think would be some of the stones that we need to create as far as a respectful workplace? What else would you include in a respectful workplace? And I'll wait.
I would say probably open communication. I mean, I think it would be, all these things are founded on being able to talk to everybody about these things.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And what would need to happen, that was Mark, what would need to happen to create open communication? Because it's easier said than done, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think definitely an understanding of where people come from, but also a sense of camaraderie, being a part of the same team, a little bit of friendship. I mean, just being comfortable with one another to have those discussions and open communications.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right with the camaraderie and the friendship and the respect, because unless you have a conversation with me, and it doesn't, and here's the thing I always think, people think of extremes. It doesn't mean we have to, and I usually say this when I'm in a women's group, it doesn't mean we have to braid each other's hair and do kumbaya and do the the slumber party thing. But it does mean sometimes having a conversation, having lunch, just instead of having that rhetorical "how are you," is just to actually ask people, about their past and that kind of thing. So absolutely. Anybody else about a respectful workplace?
There's got to be trust here.
And how do I start that trust?
Well, I think you start that trust by showing other people that you will respect their opinions, and that you will, sometimes we come from different experience levels, and sometimes it's hard for somebody who's more experienced to take advice from somebody who's less experienced, and vice versa.
It is. It is. It's there's a